Welcome to the Hive. Today is a special occasion, as today is not about gameplay, no deck tech video or anything like this. LSS has actually sent me a spoiler card for the upcoming set Bright Lights, and I am super excited to share it with all of you. As this is the Hive, I didn't want to do this by myself, it would feel kind of weird, so I'm joined by Colin and Oli once more to go over this new card. They have not seen it before, I didn't share anything with them about it except that it is in fact an assassin card. It's not mechanologist or anything, this is sticking true to the theme of the channel, so we can all enjoy their first impressions together and you can check out the card yourself and think about how to incorporate it into your decks in the future. I'm super excited that the set is actually gonna have some new toys for Assassin. I didn't think it would have that, to be honest. And it's super cool that they gave me this card, and I cannot thank LSS enough that they sent me this and gave me this opportunity. Like I said, I'm super excited to share it with all of you. So we'll just get right into it. I'm just gonna bring the card up. Here we go, and I'm gonna send it over to Colin and Oli to check out. There we go. So have a look at this stuff.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
I have to resist a very obvious Fist of the North Star joke here.
It's great. It's a popper for a start.
Yep.
Yeah, block 3 popper. That's all Assassin really can use.
Yeah.
I would definitely say this is probably a new Assassin staple, honestly.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean,
it goes in most decks, right? It's a good Azuri swap.
It's an Azuri swap. You can run it in Arachne, actually, right? Because it's a contract card. And I know there's a bunch of Arachne players that have been like, I want a 2-cost 6 power contract. And this is exactly that. So it kind of fills that gap. And I know that a bunch of Azuri lists have played cards like Nourishing Emptiness, right? Amnesia, something like that, just because you wanted to kind of up the number of like 2-cost 6s you had in the deck that also block 3. And this actually is a pretty relevant Assassin 2-cost 6 that blocks 3. So I love the card.
It also hits quite a lot of cards because it's non-action cards.
Yes.
So this
Non-attack action
reacts,
cards,
reactions, like this is a lot.
Equipment.
Oh, wow. That makes sense.
Well,
you can actually banish
banish
Yes, you can banish a defending equipment with that. So if somebody blocks this with like a battle-worn equipment, say you're playing against a Brute and they decide to block with their Scab Skins, you play against the Rune Blade, they block with their Grasp of the Arknight, something like that, and you have a way to punch this card above their blocks, you get to banish any one of their defending cards, right? So you can just go ahead, banish that equipment, and then you're rid of it for the rest of the game.
It's also not a defending card on this chain, like this link. It could be any card, right? Or
I think that's actually correct, yes. Yeah, banish the top card.
Another thing I've noticed is the contract does say, in a weird sort of way, that you do get silver for banishing equipment. So
yes,
I think this is a soft counter to equipment blocks if you have a shred. One of the Assassin's biggest weaknesses is just heroes with a huge fridge, like Bravo, Dory. I guess you can say Brute in a way.
Oh yeah, Brute has a fridge, absolutely, yeah.
This definitely helps a ton with fridge. I mean, being a block 3, attack for 6, popper. Not much to say about that. Assassin always loves poppers, but I'm interested to see how this will be used.
I think it goes in every deck.
Yep. Honestly,
I'm not sure about Redline yet or more aggressive decks, but I can definitely see like contract using this like every way possible.
Yep.
I think it's got a higher ceiling than some of the 2-block 6s that are in decks at the moment.
I mean, this is definitely better than something like Humble, which a lot of the Assassin decks are currently using. And the art on it, I just want to say, 10 out of 10.
The artwork is insane. Like, it took me a while, actually, when I first saw it, to like, okay, what's going on here? With like the guy standing there and then the shadow behind him actually getting beheaded. At first, I thought it was like, okay, there's something that's happening like off screen, right? And then the shadow is kind of just like projected. but it's actually sort of like a future shadow, basically, or like his shadow is already dead, and that's kind of the joke about it, right? But I love this. Like, I mean, it's another contract, right? Like, it doesn't hit, it depends. Like, it doesn't hit a ton of cards in some decks, but especially any deck that wants to block with equipment is gonna be really scared of putting equipment in front of your isolates, right? In front of any stealth card, basically.
Really wish we had this when Autumn was still
legal,
dealing with that
Rampart of the Ram's Head is such a pain in the butt.
Honestly,
is a counter to it entirely.
This would have been even good against Crown of Seeds, right? Because one of the tricks... Because one of the tricks that Oldham players caught onto towards the end was like, if you hit them with the Scale Peeler, right? What they would do is they would just put their Crown of Seeds in front of whatever else it was that you were sending. So the debuff got used up by the Crown of Seeds, despite it not blocking, right? It didn't matter. You just used up the debuff there. And then I guess there could have been some situations where you could have actually gotten rid of the Crown of Seeds with this thing. But yeah, especially against Rampart, this would have been insane, right? And you can, like, obviously it pairs very well with a Shred, right? That goes without saying, but it also pairs well with Cut to the Chase, right? Because it's a contract, so you can buff it with that. You can buff it with Concealed Blade, obviously. Put it to that like crucial 7 break point that can sometimes be enough to get you over the top. So I would say it's not a great card when the opponent like just full blocks, obviously. And that's true of any swap, essentially. And it's also, I would say, much less impactful than other swaps in Arsenal, right? Like, this is not a card that you particularly want to put into your arsenal, I think.
There's no actual physical card disruption with it.
Exactly.
So it doesn't stunt their turns at all.
Exactly, yeah.
But over a long game, it could be huge.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, like, the heroes that don't want to block this, right? Basically, like any aggro deck or anything, if they're not blocking this, they're still eating 6. That's not to be trifled with in the long run of things, right?
Definitely.
Like, if you can block with 3 cards, you can send a 6 back at them, and at some point they're just gonna fall over, right, from that. This is like it's an interesting card, because to get like the maximum benefit out of it, you sort of need to pair it up with some kind of attack reaction, I think, because this card is definitely, isolate works too, but you know, then they have to block the isolate with something. So this is a card you have to hit with it to get the effect, but you want it to be blocked, because then you get the maximum benefit from it, right? And ideally you want to have it blocked with equipment. So it's an interesting...
I will say, this kind of takes a slot where Down Dirty kind of used to be. I mean, Down Dirty was mostly used because it's a 6 block, it's a popper. Yep. I mean, sure, you can block with it from Arsenal, and that's great and all, but we don't really use it because it's great, but as a popper, I certainly think that this could replace Down and Dirty in quite a lot of decks.
It's definitely a more versatile card, I would say, because it just has an actual effect against some decks that can be pretty relevant, especially against decks with a lot of armor. And you can sort of use this to kind of make sure they use their armor on your terms, basically, right? Because anytime you put down a stealth card, they can't really commit armor to it unless it's stuff that would break anyways, right? But if they have anything that's like Battle Worn, Temper, I mean, Temper was already kind of problematic against Assassin, right? Because you could run Shred and then you just shred the Temper card and then it breaks. But normally you would be safe to block with Battle Worn equipment because Shred doesn't do anything. And then this gets rid of it.
Scale Peeler as well. You can you can control when they block with equipment quite a lot. So they kind of want to use the best effectiveness of their blocks. So you don't use Scale Peeler on this turn. They block with equipment, then you can use this.
Yes, and get rid of the equipment,
Yeah.
There's a lot of things you can do with it. I really like it.
Yeah.
Great card.
It's cool. And it's another, banish the top card of the deck, obviously. So if you're going for like a contract fatigue strategy, it just adds up.
It's also like if you banish, you can banish a D-React off it. When they block with it, you can get 2 silver potentially off from.
Yep.
It's quite a good card. When cards that get you 2 silver already high rate.
Yeah, like
definitely.
I mean, the main, I would say, like problem I see with this card is really that it almost necessitates you having a reaction to punch it over the top, because this card is basically best when the opponent blocks for 6 and then you punch over and then you can land the effect and actually get rid of it. So
which is a lists like Redline do very well.
Yep.
Aggro Blue Line, I've been seeing that they've been running a bit more shreds recently.
Yeah, definitely.
I cannot speak to contracts, but I do think this is a card that could definitely get them to maybe start running a bit more shreds or a few more D-reacts.
As contract, I wouldn't be running any shreds with it, but Cut to the Chase will do very nicely with it.
Cut to the Chase works already, yeah, true. And you get the additional like top deck manipulation to make sure you can hit something good with it, right? So overall, I really like it. Like it's not super flashy, right? Like it's not a card that's like, hey, if I hit with this, it shuts down their turn. And so we're not getting any hard disruption from this or anything. But I think this is good against decks that want to go for a longer game, that like blocking a lot, right?
Yeah.
And then you punch over the top with that. And that's what this card, I think, will do best. And this is normally the decks that Assassin struggles a bit into, right? Like decks that don't block, any like aggressive decks, Lexi, Katsu, that kind of thing, Fi. Typically, that's our best matchups, right? Because we control the pace of the game in those matchups quite a lot. And then the matchups where we struggle a little bit are typically the ones that are more defensive, like a Bravo, like some versions of Dromai, right? Those kind of matchups. And this is a card, I think, that can definitely have a bunch of applications in those types of matchups where the game goes a little bit longer, they use their equipment a little bit more, and grinding them down is actually the strategy that you have to go for. And I think this card just does basically everything that you need to do in that setting. So, yeah, I love it. All right. You guys got anything to add?
No, that's it, I think.
I'm glad they've added their Assassin card to Bright Lights, the Mechanologist set. Oh, one more thing I want to add. Since Evos are going to be a huge part of the Assassin set, this is going to be a very big check to Mechanologist.
That's actually true.
It does banish the defending card. Technical Vossen is going to be care about the banish zone, but just taking away their equipment and just, I don't know how Evo's going to work yet. Hasn't been shown to us, but how I read it, we're just taking away their headpiece altogether.
True, yeah. That's a good point. Like, I mean, Tekla Vossen, as you said, can still play the stuff from Banished, but if any of the other Mechanologist heroes want to, like, play with the Evos...
He needs a base helmet to put it in, though. So if you banish the base, they can't even play it from Banished.
They can't even play it, yeah. That's an interesting side note there, yeah. So yeah, overall, love this card. Looking forward to putting it into my decks. And I hope you guys out there are as excited as I am, as we are for this card. And as excited about Bright Lights coming out and giving some new toys for the Assassin class to play with. I think it's fantastic. And again, many thanks to LSS for giving me the spoiler card and giving me the chance to share it with all of you out there. And that wraps it up for today. See you in the next one.